So, what about the causes? What happens to give us cancer of any sort? Well, we believe that in virtually all cancers there's a balance between genetic susceptibility to developing the cancer and environmental factors which tend to cause the changes in the cells which lead to cancer. And in colorectal cancer, genetic factors can be quite important. There are small groups of cancers which are inherited directly. So you can inherit certain types of colorectal cancer from your parents. If they're carrying a gene which is changed in such a way as to make cancer much more likely, then you can actually inherit this. There's a condition called familial adenomatous polyposis, which is handed on by a mutated or a changed gene. And if you inherit this gene, then you're likely to develop hundreds, thousands of adenomas, and you're very likely to have cancer by the age of 40. There's another condition called, which is called Lynch syndrome, but I won't go into that in any great detail, but again, it's a very specific inherited condition that causes colorectal cancer. But the vast majority of people who get colorectal cancer don't get it because they've got one of these genes. It may be that they have inherited some slight changes and slight variations in the genes, not mutations, not big changes, but slight changes in the genes, which are called polymorphisms, which make them less able to handle carcinogens and therefore more likely to develop cancer. And certainly there is a family history, so if you have several first-degree or second-degree relatives with colorectal cancer, even though they're not carrying a specific gene, you are at higher risk of developing this. And there's quite a well-worked-out system of recommending surveillance in people who've got family histories. So people who have family histories of colorectal cancer can go to the clinical geneticists and be advised as to how they should be investigated or followed up. But that's only one side of it. So people with no family history, no genetic problems, still get colorectal cancer quite commonly. And why is that? And we're now beginning to edge towards understanding why this is the case. And there has fairly recently been an enormous effort put into reviewing the whole of the world literature on what's known about what causes cancer in an environmental sense. And it's pretty clear that there are some very important issues which can predispose to getting colorectal cancer in particular. We all think about diet. Diet must be important, and diet is important, but exactly which components of diet is not entirely clear. There's very strong evidence that taking a lot of red or processed meat increases your risk, and there's slightly weaker evidence that vegetables and lots of fibre decrease your risk. But the real problem is around being overweight. Now, this often comes as a surprise to people that actually being overweight increases your risk of cancer, because you always think of people with cancer as losing weight, which of course they do when the cancer becomes very advanced and the cells use up all the energy. But there is a very strong association between being overweight and having cancer. There's also a very strong negative association between taking exercise and getting cancer. So if you're physically active, your risk of developing cancer goes down quite considerably. And there are various explanations for this, which we won't go into at the moment. We could maybe discuss them later if people are interested. But the evidence that there are these associations is very strong indeed. Smoking, of course, is associated with lung cancer. It's also associated with bowel or colorectal cancer. And there's no doubt that excessive alcohol intake is again associated with cancer. Not even excessive alcohol intake, even moderate alcohol intake can increase your risk of cancer. So these are the sort of environmental factors which cause cancer. There's also, of course, this background radiation which everybody is exposed to. and that undoubtedly will have an effect on all cancers. But these environmental factors are mostly behavioural, and therefore they are theoretically modifiable to prevent cancer. And towards the end of this talk, I'm going to come back to talking about the prevention of cancer. But